Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today I am making another custom Funko pop figure. I love making these so much. They are a lot of fun and I'm glad that you guys are enjoying me watching me make these. So here we have a female DIY pop figure. Now I'm not actually making a female character, but we'll get to that soon. But yeah, first, before we actually make this character and customize this Funko, we have to sort of destroy it. Now this custom Funko character has a very different body shape to the regular figure, so I decided to completely overhaul the body and create the body from scratch. Now to do that we have to dismember him completely, so we are going to chop the head off, and to do that we basically blast it with hot air from a hairdryer until it is piping hot, and then try to rip the head off. Now if that doesn't work you can use an X-Acto knife, but try to make sure that the figure is nice and hot to sort of soften that glue. And here we have a freshly decapitated pop figure. After this we are going to slice both of the ears off as well as the nose. And then we are going to chop off all of its limbs. Yep, its arms, its legs, and I'm doing this with my craft knife. Now when you do this you have to be very careful not to cut yourself. I'm actually quite surprised that I didn't get injured during this. Now after this I actually needed a way to add some armature wire onto this figure so that I could sculpt the arms and legs on top of that. Now just to sort of clean off some of those rough areas with some sandpaper, and after that we are finally ready to sculpt this pop figure's body. Now today I'm actually using Sculpey, original Sculpey, which is a polymer clay. It is an oven hardening clay and I love using polymer clay for this. I find it so fun and very, very convenient. Now I did end up getting the legs and arms a little bit too long, but that's okay because after that I kind of just shortened them a little bit, cut the wire and sort of squished them together until it was a correct size. Now after this it was time to sculpt this little guy's face. Because we have a rough base for the body, I need to sort of work on the face. So after I had chopped off the nose and the ears, I had created a little snout for the little guy, tufts of hair on the sides of his head, and now I am sculpting his ears. I made sure to add a little bit of extra thickness to the back of these ears because I really did not want them to be brittle. I wanted them to stay nice and strong and not snap off, because that would be sad. Now is the time to reattach the head because I had horribly decapitated him. I needed to fix him up, so I'm actually using a bit of liquid Fimo here, which is a liquid polymer clay. It is a oven hardening gel, which is really, really good for gluing polymer clay stuff together. And yeah, I actually used a little bit of masking tape just to hold it together while it cured in the oven, and it was very, very convenient to use. After this it was time to add the ears onto this little guy's head to make him look, you know, like how he looks in the reference photo. And I actually used that same oven hardening liquid Fimo, but I also used a little bit of polymer clay on the front and the back of the ears, disguised as tufts of fur, and this was mainly just to hold the ears on while the clay cures, because it is going to fall over if I didn't do it that way. Now finally, time to sculpt the adorable little scarf that this character wears. It is a lovely little scarf and I love the details on it and the folds and the fabric. So I really tried my best to get the folds of the fabric the same way, as well as the little tufts of yellow fur coming out from underneath the scarf. I had rolled out a very thin piece of clay. Now, other than this, I used a little bit of clay underneath to sort of bulk it out, but I used a very thin piece on the top, and this was mainly so I could get those folds in the scarf and to have it look like it's fabric, and I really like the results of that. I think it looks pretty cute and definitely looks sort of like a natural draping of fabric on, you know, the body. Now is the time to do the little bow on the back of the scarf, and I just find this part so cute, and I was very terrified of those little sort of ribbons breaking off, and they did break off at one point, which was rather unfortunate, but I just used that sort of liquid polymer clay to act as a glue, and I also added a fair amount of that around the sort of bow area just to make sure that it stayed nice and strong and wouldn't fall off again. Now is the time to gesso this guy, because I need a nice sort of primer before I add the paint over the top, and I definitely did bake this little guy a few times, and if you're wondering, don't worry, the pop figure base will not melt, the head will not melt in the oven. I get a lot of comments about that, saying that how do you stop it from melting? It has quite a high melting point, it won't melt even if you blast it with heat from a hairdryer or putting it in the oven at 120 degrees Celsius is not going to melt this little guy. It will soften in the oven, but once it cools down, it will harden back up again and go back to normal. So now is the time to paint, and I'm very excited because I love adding colors, I love adding the details, because this just brings the character to life and makes it really bright and colorful and look a lot like the reference, hopefully. And yeah, I just used my Joe Sonja's matte flow acrylic paints. Now I'm trying ways to sort of prevent the paints from having lots of, you know, visible brush strokes, and I know you can use an airbrush to get this effect, but I don't have an airbrush for paints, and I kind of enjoy painting them by hand. I feel like it gives a bit more of a handmade aesthetic, but I did try to sort of prevent brush strokes by thinning the paint down and adding a bit of retarder medium, which slows down the drying time. And I had to actually add a few more layers because the paint was thinner, but I feel like it did make a lot of difference. As you can see, there are a lot less visible brush strokes. There are still some, but it looks good, and I really like how it turned out with the sort of paint job. So I just used a mix of yellows that were obviously from the character. I tried to get my best sort of versions of those colors. I did a very slight warmer orangey yellow and a lighter sort of softer yellow, and I also tried my best to get that sort of warm grey color. I did mix a bit of red, a bit of orange with a little bit of black and white to make that warm grey color. It did dry slightly different to the character as acrylic paints do, but to be honest, I'm actually quite happy with it. Now, the most fun part of painting this was probably the scarf, because it has that awesome little gradient and then the details over the top, and I was really looking forward to doing this part because it just looked so fun, and to be completely honest, it was so fun. So I started off with just a bit of aqua, and then I added a little bit more of green and yellow to the middle to add that sort of subtle gradient, and then after this I actually went over with a sort of dark green watercolor pencil, and this was to add the details onto the scarf. And for the face, I actually used some white acrylic paint for the eyes, as well as that same light yellow acrylic paint for the patterns on his forehead. Now, I did have to do quite a few layers of that to sort of build up the opacity because I was painting over a dark surface, but that's okay because, to be honest, I find painting really relaxing and fun to do. I just love seeing that sort of figure come to life and the details sort of coming together and just looking really, really cute. And as you keep going, the details sort of just like become finished and look really awesome. So I find doing these very, very rewarding and fun. So here is the final results for this little character. I love him so much. He is so adorable. This is an original character from my client. This has actually been done as a commission. So yeah, if you want to commission me, please send me an email at scribblefixdesigns@gmail.com and I will get back to you on a quote. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit like and subscribe. I have a playlist for more pop figure videos. I love doing these so much. And yeah, I will see you in my next video, hopefully. So yeah, bye everyone.